Hi, guys, welcome back to the Y.A.N.G podcast, where we dive into the messy, complicated side of life. I'm your host, Hannah, and today I want to talk about something that we don't often discuss: social transactions. I want to talk about social transactions and how the way we express gratitude can sometimes feel like a sincere emotion. In a like it will feel more or less like a sincere emotion and more like a performance, like you're required to do that. In this instance, for example, you might not have grown up in an orphanage, but I bet you have had moments where you've been expected to perform gratitude in a way that didn't feel totally authentic. It was uncomfortable. And today I'm sharing a piece of my story to unpack just how complex and sometimes painful those moments can be. When I talk about painful, on my end, you can imagine in the previous episodes, I talked about losing a parent when you're quite young, and you're coming from a space where your parent was taking care of everything in your life, and you thought that was the norm for your life. So you're not expected that every time you eat, every time you dress, every time you do anything, you expect it to be like ile you have to do a performance to show gratitude. So you're coming from that type of environment to where getting your daily meals need issues, then you go to the orphanage, and then now in the orphanage, every time you do something, every time you get uniforms, every time anything that you get from your sponsors, no, we used to call them benefactors, if every time you got something from them, you had to write a letter expressing how grateful you are, how happy you are that you got what you got. And I think from my young age, I always felt like it was. Now, as an adult, I can understand everything that was happening, but from my young age, I always felt like something else is happening here that haini making any sense. And every time I had to write down maybe how grateful I was, ilikuwa inanikumbusha that I'm writing this because I lost my parent, and the person who is taking care of me is not even someone we are related with, we have any sort of relationship other than this. Like this, yes, now the word, that's why it made me a social transaction. Like this felt like a transaction. I'm doing this so that next time this person will be able to also help me out. So this episode is inspired by those experiences, the growing up in an orphanage where gratitude wasn't just a feeling; it was something that we had to show, and in in most ways it was in a very specific way. Like I'm saying about the letter writing, we used to write letters all the time. Kukiwa na holidays, kukiwa na nini, every time we received something, we had to write letters telling the person who had sponsored the item that we were having how grateful we were, how the thing is going to help us out. Kama ni uniform, sometimes you'd go into detail about how you were walking barefoot to school, and now at least you have shoes. So like you'll go in very specific ways. And then whenever these sponsors came to visit the orphanage and spend time with us, we had to do those performances. Unaona kama every time a member of parliament, someone in the government amekuja kutembelea your village, and then the kids and the women and like everyone who was able to perform wanatengeneza their music, their dances to come and showcase them in front of this member of parliament, this politician that has come to visit, so that um I feel like you are welcome. Ama whenever we have tourists at the airport, and you find the Maasais or the cultural dancers, na nini, they are there welcoming them, and then they would get tips. And now, in the instance of politicians, we used to get like mkate na soda, na nini, and we would be very happy that such a thing happened. But at the same time, there's a way that it feels unnatural. Like every time someone feeds you, you have to do a performance, and right now, as an adult, I can comfortably say I I do understand why that was required, and I do understand why we did it. But as a child, hiyo kitu ilikuwa inanichanganya sana. Ilikuwa inanichanganya sana because I was always wondering, am I really thankful, or am I just trying to live up to what is expected? Like inaacha kukua more of, inaacha kukua like you're naturally grateful. Because of course, if I was walking barefoot to school and now I have shoes, I'm very grateful. I'm very happy about it. But when you tell me I have to write a letter to express how I'm feeling about this scenario, and being a Catholic institution, we had to tell them that we were praying for them and their families so that they can continue being prosperous, they can continue having what they do, so that aki mkisikia hizo magari na nini, I don't know, like I said, the whole time I've been seated here, no, there was no noise, there was no nothing. Every time I start recording. But anyway, I was thinking of doing it at night. Nikuwe na nini usiku, but we have some people in this building that love blasting music, and sometimes when it's usiku, I'm very, very exhausted and very tired. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Like these things didn't feel at necessarily natural, because you're like, if I'm grateful, why do I have to do a performance for me to show how grateful I am? And the funny thing is, I love performing, I love dances, I love cultural dances, but sasa ikifanywa in a way that you have to do it and you have to be happy doing it, inakaa um like kuna vile tu it takes something from it, but hiyo ni from the perspective of a child, the mind of a child, compared to now being an adult and understanding that there are social transactions everywhere. Like when you go into your workplace na nini, it's not a must for you to respect your boss because you both of you are there to work, but socially, for you to be able to have some sort of relationship, you have to understand that this is your boss, so you have to be respectful to the boss. Now your respect inaenda to a greater extent, because you see, like sikia sasa hivi like umenyamaza. Anyway, you see, like instances, kitambo I used to ask myself, like every time we would go somewhere, ama we are visiting somewhere and we have a priest with us, women would go out of their way, church women, to make sure that table yenye tuko enye father ako imesaviwa iko vizuri na nini, hizo vitu zote. And no one said that you had to do this at gunpoint, but they go out of their way to do that because now they're getting also something from this priest coming to them, maybe to baptize their kids na nini, and whatever relationship that they're going to have with this priest, inakuwa na hiyo dynamic. Like right now I can get it. I am even the person who is, if we are going somewhere with my boss and I'm in a position to serve them kama food imetolewa na nini, I wouldn't mind going to the buffet setup and serving my boss, and it and click like something else. It's only that it's a social transaction. Like I feel it's a social transaction. So let me now get into nimekupatia background, yeah, why I'm doing this episode today. And now let me get into it. Sawa, for me ilikujia kwa hiyo the pressure to perform, and we were always told to perform while we were smiling, and in the performances pia hata kama we were showing how grateful you are, you had to show that you wanted them to continue helping you. Like you wanted them in your life. So hapo ndo nasema, like it takes the humanity out of it, because yes, you do want them to do that, but you're being told you have to do this. Like you have to tell them, thank you for paying my fees for this term. I'm hoping to be a doctor at some point in time. I'm hoping to be a teacher. I'm hoping to be this. I'm hoping to be that. And with your help, I can continue being that. So now let me get into the pressure to perform. Let me ask just a simple question. What is gratitude supposed to look like? Because for me, on my end, gratitude is I thought it was a feeling. Like right now, in the previous episodes, I was talking about how I was moving, and I'm not the person who likes asking for help. And nikiwa kwa stairs carrying my own buckets and everything, there was this young man. I think he was a campus guy. There was this young man who was there, and he was like, "No, you like you're not supposed to be carrying all this by yourself. Let me help you out." And I was so happy, like I was so grateful. I felt so nice na nikawambia thank you so much for helping me out. Ilikuwa just one flight of stairs, but I was like, thank you so much for doing this. Then I moved in, and there were these guys who were coming to connect my Wi-Fi, and one of them saw a painting a small painting that was still on the table, and it was like, why are you having this beautiful painting ikiwa hapa chini? Like you should be hanging it. And I was like, I'm too short. I don't have a hammer. I don't have nails to do the hanging. Like I'll get to some point where I'll do it. So acha tu ikae hapo in the meantime. And then he was like, no, I have everything. I'm tall. I'm whatever. I have everything, and I love this painting. Let me just hang it for you. And I was so grateful. I was so happy. Na nikamwambia, I'm very grateful. Thank you for this. Thank you for that. Thank you for the next. And though they were not allowed to, I offered them something to drink. Like that one is from me because I'm feeling grateful for something that has been done. But had this guy hanged the painting and then turned around and told me, now you have to be grateful. Now you have to dance for me so that I can know you're grateful. Like for me, when it comes to being grateful, having gratitude, it's more of a feeling. Like it's supposed to come from within you to the person. Like for many of us, it's a heartfelt thank you. Like mine, I was so happy kusaidiwa. I was so happy getting help. Sometimes people hug. Sometimes it's as simple as a smile. Like your smile mostly inakuja kama unataka kuvuka barabara, and there's this car speeding, and when they get to where you are, they slow down and come to a stop so that you can cross the road. You don't need to do a performance. You can just smile or wave at them, or give a thumbs up, like, thank you. You're grateful about that. But what if I told you that for a kid growing up in an orphanage, gratitude was more like an obligation than an emotion? And hii kitu ilini mess up kidogo because it goes to a point where it started feeling burdensome, and it was not supposed to feel like that, because ilikuwa like an obligation. Like every time something happens, you have to perform. You have to show how grateful you are. Like you have to, kama ni hiyo kudance, the way I'm saying, kama ni nini, you have to show it. And then on top of everything else, on top of everything else, you had to be grateful by performing academically. Like for us ilikuwa na threshold. Kama wewe ni mtu wa kupata A na B, ulikuwa unaambiwa grade yako ikienda below B, you're not supposed to be sponsored anymore. Like everything becomes so nazaitaji animatronic, like mechanical. It becomes so mechanical. Like you're doing this because you're required to do it. Like it was more of an obligation than an emotion. When I was a child, we were always taught to be thankful, but not in the basic terms of being thankful. Like right now, the way I keep saying, as an adult, I can understand what was required from us, but it was taught in quite an interesting way. But it wasn't just about you, like it wasn't just about you feeling thankful. It was about you showing it. Like you have to show it every every time. You have to show it. You have to be like in polished. Kama hizo letters we used to write, then kuna mtu anakuja kumark kama iko sawa, kama iko nini nini, kama ume include what it was required, hizo vitu zote, and then you have to redo it with the changes. You have to redo it with the letter had to be perfect. So I feel more like an exam sort of, but it's you trying to show your sponyo that you're grateful. So it felt like you'd failed somehow. Like, where would you how to be grateful? Let me show you how to be grateful. So in a kuwa burdensome, for me it started feeling like a burden. Man, and when someone hears me say that, they might think I was being ungrateful. So you understand, like when it comes to these social transactions, it's quite interesting sometimes. Because if I don't perform the way you expected, inakaa ni kama ni vita. Like I shouldn't even have done that for you. I shouldn't have even gone the extra mile for you, because the way you're behaving, like you're not dancing and jumping all over the place. It's not like you're not being grateful. Someone might think I'm not being grateful. I am, and I will always be grateful to the people around me. And right now, being in direct contact with my sponsor, and every time I think of her, I can send her a message and say, hey, today I was thinking about you and how much you've helped me out through this, that, and the next. This is what I've been able to achieve. And I feel quite mm, I feel quite grateful that you came into my life. Like that is something that is coming from me. I don't feel obligated to do it. I don't know if I'm making sense. Yeah, I don't know, but let's go ahead. So, literally, we had to organize performances. Like, we had to do dance, songs, skits. We had to do everything. Alafu unaona tena, the transactional part of it was also coming in, because most of the sponsors were white and they were Italian and everything else. And of course, kwa hiyo orphanage, we are Kenyans, we are young kids, we are. So, our performances mostly zilikuwa leaning towards either being very African and ama ikue very Italian. Most of them were Italian, which there's nothing wrong with it. And then we had to be like on top of that, we while we were performing, while we were doing all these things, tulikuwa tunapigwa picha, cause ni lazima ziende zikaoneshwe kwa other sponsors that these are the kids that you're sponsoring, and this is how far they've come, how they're going on na nini. Like yearly kulikuwa na the required photo yearly, like every kid from that orphanage would come, unapigwa picha individually, inatumiwa your sponsor now with a letter yako ya kusema, ya kuwa wish Merry Christmas and Happy New Year and all those things. Now as an adult, I understand what the orphanage was doing, but as a child, I always felt like inaitagwa chattel. Like you're not a human anymore. Like you're there to just do, to perform, like to feed the inaitagwaje, mtu akikusaidia ndio I feel whatever, I don't know what it's called, but it used to feel like that. And the funny thing is, when I say that, someone might think in it I'm conflicting. No, as a child, I was a smart child, always been, always have been, and ilinieka kwa a lot of trouble, like discussed previously. But even then, for me, ilikuwa quite like iko inanimekia sense, and I wished someone had even sat me down and explained to me what it is we were doing, because all along I used to feel hata kama uko hapo una smile, you're happy, you're dancing, you're doing all those things, it just felt like something is wrong here, something is wrong here. Like everything that we were doing, we were demonstrating how grateful we were for their generosity. But here's the thing, it wasn't just about being grateful, it was about performing that gratitude. And that's where the EO discomfort crept in all the time. So you start to wonder, am I really grateful? Or what are they doing? Or am I just playing the part? And that's where the line inaanza kuwa blurry kidogo, because you're like, what is going on? Because when you're a kid, how do you even know the difference? For me, like I keep saying, I felt like something was wrong. You don't have the vocabulary to distinguish what is genuine and what is expected. So you do what's expected. You smile, you show up, you perform, and you have hope like you're doing the right thing. Like the Sponyo is happy that you're doing the right thing. Anyway, and that's how I want to dig into today. That is what I want to dig into today. this idea of gratitude as a social transaction. A transaction is something you give and get. Something that you give to someone so that you can get something back. But in these situations, what we are really giving is our emotional labor. We are showing our gratitude, but it's being asked for in a like it has to be very specific. So if my gratitude is smiling and maybe hugging someone, and then you're telling me I have to also go clean their house or something, inakuwa tricky kiasi. That's why I'm saying, as an adult I understand, because I've been hosted and I've hosted people in my house, and you feel obligated atakama, if you're, especially for me, when I'm hosted, I feel obligated to keep the house very clean, to cook for the people, to do everything that is required na nini hizo vitu zote. But that is from me, like I'm grateful. That's how I'm showing my gratitude for this person letting me stay. So what am I giving this person? I'm trying to give them my labor ya keep the house as clean as possible, making sure their life is as comfortable as possible around them. For them, from them, what I'm getting is um, a place to stay for the meantime. And that is the concept of social transaction. Like, you're giving something, doesn't have to be physical, it doesn't have to be anything tangible. You're giving something to someone so that you can get something back. So ours was required in a very specific way, and in return, people giving feel validated. They get to feel good about themselves, and that's where the unspoken pressure comes in, because you know that their gratitude isn't just about your feelings; it's about making them feel appreciated, and it's about them getting something from the exchange as well. Like, when I feel these people are spending their money, they're spending a lot, and for you, you have to perform, like you have to dance. I remember this one time a group of sponsors came, and we were all set up to perform. The routine was flawless, the smiles were perfect, everyone clapped, they praised us, and said we were so talented. Of course, hizi ni vitu walikuwa wanatuambiaga all the time, like, you're very talented, you're very outspoken, hizo vitu, like, they had to they were telling us your time. But all I could think even then was, did they even know that we were grateful? Like, is this what they think being grateful was? Did they even care that we were dancing, like we were entertaining them? Did they, like, was it a genuine transaction? Was it something that was benefiting them in one way or another? Like, did they realize that it was also taking something from us? And being a child, ndo nasema, you feel like chattel, like you're not seen. You, as the child, you're not seen. The emotional turmoil in your mind is not, like, it's for sale to whoever pays the most. And I know I sound great ungrateful, but I'm just trying to express what type of emotions we were having. Personally, I was having back then. Like, and it's not necessarily myself peke, because I've also interacted with my sister. She was also in an orphanage, and even to her, she was like, sometimes you try and correct maybe one of the nuns, or tell them something that happened that was wrong, but because you're not expected to show any sort of um like, to get out of the mold that is supposed to be you, inachukuliwa like you're not being grateful, like you're trying to antagonize them in one or another. It's hard to reconcile, isn't it? Like, you're a child, and on one hand you want to be grateful, you already are grateful, but on the other hand you're keenly aware that you should show gratitude, and the performance itself, or you being grateful, isn't entirely about you. Like, it's not about you. It's not you showing your gratitude. It's you doing what is required to appear like you're showing your gratitude. Like, this is a performance. This is a an exchange. This is a transaction. It's like they're buying your gratitude. It felt like that sometimes. Well, anyway, but the pressure doesn't end there. Like your nini your the transaction bado equal the emotional toll of these social expectations. They're usually sana zaiekaje. The emotional toll that it takes on you is not even something that you like. The way I'm trying to explain, it's not something that you can explain to someone. That's when unapataga woli host mtu for a few years and you thought everything was fine, but them in my situation, like they went out of their way to offer what they could have at the moment, but on your end unaona like kila kitu ilikuwa sawa, kila kitu iko poa ni nini, but this person later on would say things like she was not a good host. Like I suffered nikiwa kwake, I was the one who was overworking and no one saw how much I was overworking. Like social transactions, they have those intangible pieces of you, like they're taking something from your soul. You might think it was just about the letters or the performances, but it extends to the smaller everyday moments too. Like we'd receive donation, clothes, toys, food, whatever, and the person giving would be there watching, expecting a reaction. And sometimes kwanza history yangu, there was a time even the nun ilifika mahali akasema she will not be taking used clothes. People used to come and donate clothes to us, but unapata zingine men hata mtu akuosha, they have stains, they have, and wakidonate you're there, you're happy, ukiambia uchague na nini, you're just there picking everything that you think is suitable, and you notice even some clothes are torn, some clothes they look weird, zingine too, like I said, they had weird stains, but you expected to keep your smile plastered on your face until this person left so that they can know that they were happy. Like they're expecting a reaction. You're supposed to be grateful. You had to be grateful enough. Hii sasa ndio ilikuwa inanibo sometimes, cause I'm grateful. Without a doubt, I'm grateful. And I feel awesome that this is happening. I feel great that I'm able to have so much that a lot of people don't. But ni lazima behave in a certain way so that they can know that you're grateful enough. Not too much to look comical, but not too little either. Like not too natural. You didn't want to seem ungrateful, but you also didn't want them to see you as too eager or too needy, because that might make the giver also uncomfortable. And then there is this invisible line that you start walking. You have to manage your emotions to protect the giver's feelings, and your own feelings are left to fend for themselves. And as a child, hii kitu inakuwekaga in a very weird mental state. Like if you're too reserved, you feel like you're being unappreciated. If you're too enthusiastic, you feel like you're playing the role of a grateful orphan. And at the end of the day, you're not even sure if your gratitude is yours anymore. Like you're just there to show, to act the way you feel. So, what has been the lasting impacts of this thing? Like I said, as an adult, I'm able to look back at these things and see what the orphanage was trying to do, because that's how they were trying to walk a very thin line with us. They had to coach us, because at the end of the day hata wataki kuonekana like they're not doing anything with the money that was being sent, or the donations that were being sent. Like I understand now, when such a thing happens in an orphanage, why they would go out of their way to make this performance na nini, because donations every time, like ukiangalia, let's say like NGOs, let's say vitu kama UN na nini, every time they do something that iko na social impact or anything of that sort, they have to be there taking photos, taking, like documenting everything. They have to show that hii pesa ya sponsor imetumika vizuri. So as an adult, I can look back with a different perspective or a grown perspective on these things and see why they are required. But the impact of this social transaction still lingers. Like gratitude is not such a tricky thing. Like it's not such a crazy thing. It's something that you already have. As an adult, I find myself wrestling with the pressure to perform being grateful, especially when it comes to organizational level of transactions. Ukipata of social transactions. Ukipata yourself in a situation where you're being awarded, you're being um what can I call it? Like you have to receive something from someone. Inakuaga most of the time like they take photos, companies they take photos, and you have to be there greeting the person, smiling. If this thing was authentic and you authentically feel grateful, it can even be seen by the people around you. But ukipata uko in such a situation, you're required to be grateful, you're required to smile, you're required to do this, you're like, huh, is it really, is it like what is now happening? Like bado at the back of my mind I have these instances where I have like I'm like, is it like your performance if someone gave me something, and especially so I'm talking about institutional levels, because when it comes to friends and family, you're just as authentic as you can be. But when it comes to these institutional items, sometimes you're being gifted something that you know you might never use, and it's supposed to be in a reward for the effort that you've put in at work or something of that sort. And like hii kitu ni sitawahi tumia ever in my life. Maybe I'll have to go and resell it. I'll have to. So in your mind, you're like, couldn't we couldn't we have done something better? Like couldn't we at least hata mngenipatia pesa or something, like an award is good, yeah. But ukiwa hapo in your mind you're like, sasa mmenipatia charger. But then you still have to be happy, you have to have the smile plastered and show how grateful you are. So sometimes in these instances, I find myself going back to that mind, your mindset, you're being in that orphanage. But then again, like I said, I do understand why these organizations have to do this, because it's the only way that even the sponsors, even the people that are donating, would feel like the donors, the people that are donating, the donors would feel like whatever they are doing is gonna impact on someone's life. And also another reason why I do understand this that level of social transaction is, as an adult I've realized that like in your life, like mbele na nyuma, this is the life. This is this is it. There is nothing more. And when I see people who go out of their way to try and help out others, like in my instance, my sponsor, the way she made sure I went to school and to the point that I'm here now, in my adult brain, I can go back to that child and tell her, like, you dance, authentically jump, authentically write that letter with a smile, because naelewa, like this person, I may make their life's purpose to make someone else's life better. So I do understand those requirements now. And it's not just about charities and donations, like I said, in friendships, in families, at work, hizi vitu unapata you're always transacting in one or another. When it comes to social transactions, you're always like in whatever performance that is happening, in whatever interaction that is happening, you're always uh, doing a transaction, a social transaction. Like you're not doing it in a monetary way, but you're doing a transaction. Here are a few examples of social transaction. I know I've blabbed on about gratitude as a social transaction, but here are a few examples that I'm going to just mention as I end the episode in a few. Sawa sawa. Yes, here they are. Did you know the first one is romantic relationships? Did you know that that is also a transaction? Like even in a marriage itself is a social transaction. I'm coming here as your wife, you're coming here as my husband, and there's what I'm expecting to get from you, there's what you're expecting to get from me. Like you give and take love, affection, attention, and intimacy. Like it's a transaction in itself. Did you know that? Yeah, like I didn't, but it makes sense. Like Nikki, when I was doing research on this, I realized that a marriage, a friendship, it's a social transaction. Hizi vitu kama relatives and family ni vile mko connected by blood, like you don't have a choice um to come out of whatever relationship that you have, but every relationship you have with someone is a transaction. Your colleagues, kuna what they expect from you, kuna what you expect from them. It's a transaction. Yenye nilikuwa nimemention, you and your boss, the relationship between you and your boss, it's a social transaction. A friend and a friend, kuna what you're getting from each other. You might have a friend that is reserved, kuna mwingine ni outgoing, wanasaidiana kivyao, kama vile watu wanasemaga extroverts adopt introverts and force them into friendships, because like it's a social transaction. Mko hapo tu, when you even you're having a conversation with a stranger kwa gari, like kwa matatu vile mtu anakuaga, even then you start eating stories, you vent, the person listens, they also, kama ni mzuri anasikiza hiyo story, wewe kuvent, you getting someone to give you a listening ear. For this other person, you might be giving them the entertainment of their week. Like it's a social transaction, something is happening there that in a nini, you, like you're getting something out of it. He or she, the person that you're giving the story to, they're getting something out of it. Another thing that I also didn't know falls under social transaction is networking. Be it business, be it a church gathering, be it whatever it is. When you're talking to people, when you're networking with people, it's a transaction. Like it's a social transaction. You like mko hapo, kila mtu is gaining something from the other, and the value of this something that you're gaining varies depending with who you're talking to and why you're talking to them. When you're in a group solidarity, like a church, like a clique, like a club, like inaitwaje, like Rotary International, those type of groups. Na hiyo ingine inaitagwa Lions something, like you're being part of such a thing is a social transaction. If you exchange a favor with someone, like you need more, it's more for inaitwagaje, forward, like it's quite forward favor, like you're exchanging a favor with someone. Kwa hii a favor pia, I wanted to mention something that I didn't realize was a social transaction. Nimekuja kujua as an adult, even because kitambo I was like, hey, no one is throwing me a birthday, no one is taking me out on my birthday na nini. And then one guy did. um he took me out on my birthday once, and I felt obligated to know when his birthday was going to be next so that I can pay that back. Like it's I'm exchanging a favor with this person. And I've bado favor exchanges. As a young kid pia, I was always like, I had a few friends in there who are always ni wale watoto wa kusimamilia weddings, wale watoto sijua kufanya nini. So I was like, why is no one inviting me to go to these wedding things? Like kwani criteria ni gani? I didn't realize even someone someone who is having a wedding inviting someone to be part of it and their kids to smamilia the wedding was a social transaction. And people in these favor exchanges na nini, they match according to their league. So kama mimi sikuwa kwa hiyo league hiyo ya kuitwa kusimamilia weddings, because you're required to buy sijui the dresses, you're required to do this, you're required sijui, like moshene mingi and a lot of money. So watu walikuwa wanaangalia watu wako the same league wana transact on that league. there's a friend of mine that juzi aliingia a certain league, and now they take each other out, they take each other to holidays, they take each other. So like this time the friend is like, I'm going to Mombasa, let's go to Mombasa. Next time my friend is like, last time you took me to Mombasa, let me take you to Naivasha, let me take you to this nini. They can't take me along because I can't transact at their level, because me, I'm not taking someone out right now at your go spend 30K a night. I don't have that. Sina hiyo saizi. But I'm understanding how it's becoming a social transaction. Like on my end, I'm getting it. As an adult, I'm understanding. Yeah, a social transaction. Complimenting someone is also a social transaction. Like hey, you look great. You make that person feel better. They tell you thank you, Ama. You even start a conversation with the person. Public acknowledgement, gifts, hizi ni social transactions bado. Then kuna negative ones. Hizo negative ones, they fall under manipulation, compliance, and social pressure. Yeah, compliance ni when your boss can take advantage of your situation of or him being in power and do whatever they want. You'll be transacting with them bado, but that is negatively. But so I think I've covered what I wanted to cover when it comes to social transaction, especially with regards to gratitude. Because for me, imekuwa something that has been bothering me for some time. Man, I hope I didn't come off as ungrateful, because that is not the target for this. So what's the takeaway? Like, what are we taking away from this this episode today? Well, I think it's more of about recognizing the complexities of gratitude, recognizing when the social transactions are happening and when we're not just feeling thankful, but like tuna perform the thanks. Like I said, unaweza kuwa umefanya a huge achievement at work and then wameita watu wengi kukupatia envelope, ukifungua unapata ni charger ama hiyo kamba ya charger, and then you're expected to be happy and smile, and you're there like, I brought in millions, why am I getting this this thing? But you're supposed to look happy, you're supposed to perform the thanks. And when we do this, it's important to pause and ask ourselves, am I being true to my feelings, or am I just being part of an invisible movie? Like something else is happening, part of an invisible performance. For those of you listening, I want to think about your own life. I want you to think about your own life. Where do you feel the pressure to show gratitude? And how often does that gratitude feel like it's for someone else rather than something that you're genuinely expressing to this person? And why is it that every time that maybe you're not, someone is gifting you something, this is just an example, someone is giving you something, and there are so many things that are happening behind the scenes, but you're expected to be grateful, na kama hauta smile na nini, hiyo inakuwa beef, like huyu mse akuage grateful. I want you to think about those instances, and if you're able to share with me in the comments, please do. I would love to have this discussion with people. I'd love to know what people think of this, because I found it quite interesting. For me, that is, these are things I'm looking back to my childhood, and I'm like, yeah, I get it now, but back then I wish someone had explained something like that to me. So, yeah, we are at the end of it. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Y.A.N.G podcast. I'm Hannah, and I'll catch you next time, hopefully with a little less pressure to be grateful. Bye.